He said he'll just edit it down to when we actually start.
See, I didn't hear that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fueled by Geek podcast. Today it is Matt and
Xander.
All right. So, Xander's running the show today, and what did you want to talk about today, bud?
So today I thought we could play a fun little game and a little bit of discussion
All right.
on what video game worlds would be cool to live in. With that, I think we should talk about some of the cool ones and some of the ones that would be just awful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I got a lot of bad ones in mind right now.
So I'm thinking, I actually want to hear you go first because
Oh.
I'm curious to see what you think a good video game world to live in is.
Oh man, because that's a bad question for me. Because all I play are like games that don't have very good safe worlds in them.
Yes.
Geez, what would be a safe world comparatively in one of my video games?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be safe. It can be dangerous. It's just, would you like being there?
Ooh, okay. Skyrim. Let's go with that. Elder Scrolls.
Ooh,
Because you get to choose. I mean, okay, so assuming you get to choose, I could be anything really. So, I mean, and I always play as a Nord for most of my playthroughs, and I'd like to be just a Nord, maybe, just chilling out, on a farm somewhere outside of Whiterun or something, or maybe in Whiterun. I don't know. I think Skyrim is pretty laid back for something like that.
and I think it's so interesting that you choose Skyrim because Elder Scrolls,
Yeah.
one of the most dangerous video game universes out there.
Yeah, true, but is it really that dangerous? Because, I mean, yeah, if you're the Dragonborn or if you're the characters from the other games, there's like always seems to be danger. But if you're just chilling in a village or a town or something, I mean, there's not much going on. I mean, yeah, sure, you can make somebody mad and they'll send the Dark Brotherhood after you or something.
Yeah.
But as long as you're just chilling and minding your own business, you're fine. Nothing's gonna happen. You're just sitting there having your mead and your ales and stuff, just eating.
Mm-hmm.
You're chilling. I don't think it's that dangerous for the normal everyday person. But if you're on purposely going to look for danger, you're gonna find it.
Yeah. So you think your days as a Nord would just be chilling out drinking?
that sounds that sounds bad, but yeah, pretty much, man. Make me a little merchant stand in the town square or something, and that'll be my day to day, just selling something. I don't have to worry about going to fight Draugr or dragons or enemies or orcs or nothing. I'm just living out my life, running my little merchant stand, man. I don't care. You know, I'm chilling in a nice walled up city. I think that's a pretty good place to be right there.
What are you buying, stranger?
Uh, I'm selling, sir. What are you buying is the question. I got some of this. What is it? Cyrodiilian, I think. Or no, that's Cyrodiil's not. Yeah, it is. It's been so long since I played.
Yeah.
I need to get back into that. Maybe I'll put that on the channel if I do.
Mm.
Yeah.
And fun fact, I've never really played a Elder Scrolls game.
My first and well, not I can't say my only because I did play Oblivion a little bit, but it's a great experience. I played it I think in 2012 or something, like not long after it came out.
Mm.
And it's just one of those things where if you don't pay attention, you will kind of get lost into it. Yeah, I'm not really big on lore, but when I play this game, I'm kind of like, well, this is cool, this is interesting, because you have all the different deities, and then the magic and different warriors that are legends and stuff like that, and there's a whole bunch of cool stuff that pops up in there.
Right.
It's really lived in, and they really put their time and effort into that. Did you want to tell me what yours is? What one you want to spend some time in?
Pokemon, definitely.
Oh yeah, I figured I saw that coming, or I figured that one, or something like Sonic or something. I was thinking
Because just the idea of people love Pokemon in this world, but to actually live in the world where Pokemon are real,
Right.
where you have these fantastical creatures that
Right.
have like superpowers. And I think like just the it would be such like a fun and adventurous and a little bit emotional because you're essentially making pets along the way. You're finding like wild creatures and like making them your pets. And if you're going to be a trainer, you could battle them. But there's more than one path to take in the Pokemon world. But I think it would just be cool to just meet the creatures, have them as pets, and go around the different regions because surprisingly, it's way easier to explore the Pokemon world than our world. 10-year-olds do it all the time.
Are you saying you want to be the very best, the best that ever was?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, it's possible. I may dabble in a little bit of Pokemon training, but I think I actually have a better purpose for being in the Pokemon world.
You could probably do like a Pokemon zoo where it's just you and your Pokemon friends.
Yeah, like my idea was to have like some sort of location that like takes care of Pokemon with special needs.
Oh, so you want to be kind of like like Pokemon vet,
But rather than like, doing surgeries on them,
just take care of them,
yeah, it's like,
a caretaker.
a caretaker of like, Pokemon with different ailments.
So
Because
like Pokemon that have gotten hurt or like just not fit for doing what they do.
yeah, because it's a bit like real life, until you have animals that have gone through some hard stuff or born differently. But especially like in the Pokemon world, there's like its battling is really big. So if there's like Pokemon that have like defects or certain issues that would hinder them in battle,
Yeah.
they're not really going to be picked.
Right.
They're not really going to have human care
Right.
or uh and also they would have like some trouble for their needs
Right.
because they're if you have like a blind Charizard or something. So my idea would be to kind of go around and make like a little sanctuary,
Yeah.
a sanctuary for special needs Pokemon. So if they ever need like like bird Pokemon without wings, or maybe a Pokemon needs like a prosthetic,
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
because it's something that is never really talked about in the Pokemon world, but I do believe it is a thing that happens because it does happen in our world. But
Right.
Pokemon is fairly bright, so it doesn't really talk about the more darker
Right.
aspects. So I think like to have a little sanctuary to take care of Pokemon in need would be where I would. That's what I would. That's my goal. That's my One Piece to go out and find there.
Well, I certainly think that's a good goal to have if you were just in that universe. And that's is a really good goal to have is to take care of the ones that really can't do much. And you know, you're right. They don't really cover that a whole lot as far as more about the lore and stuff than I do in that
Yeah,
aspect. But yeah, it's definitely something that would probably be looked good upon. Like I'm sure a lot of people would probably be like, "Oh yeah, this is a really good thing in this universe."
yeah.
Um, you know what? Maybe even Ash could do something like that. Maybe that's what he does when he retires and turns 11.
11 is grandpa age.
His old 11-year-old grandpa age. Um, but yeah, and that kind of made me sad when they finally got rid of Ash. But I know it's been forever, so we had to have a new person.
So
And
I kind of
oh no, I was just gonna say I was just like, and but I understand,
because eventually things have to change up,
right?
and I can get they want a new protagonist because they've had Ash for a long time, so they probably wanted a new character that could have different views on things
Yeah,
than
introduce new people to the
whatever.
series.
Yeah, but yeah, that a little bit of emotional, somber note for that because. Well, I'm guessing I probably blindsided you because you probably weren't expecting something so wholesome to come out of that.
And I know they did the reverse angle on the song for I think his last episode, and it was like he
Mm,
became the very best, and I was like, oh
uh,
man, don't make me cry.
Yeah.
my childhood. Um, but moving forward a little bit, you were let's talk about some worlds you don't want to be in. Um,
Okay.
since we just got done with your Pokemon stuff, what's a world you don't want to be in for gaming? Or
A
just
world I don't want to be in.
yeah, something that just you think about it and you're just like, nah, I'd rather not.
Resident Evil.
Oh, for sure, man. So the viruses in that, man, they're so unpredictable, and it's hard to know who's in on it and who's not sometimes. Because like Umbrella Corporation is corrupt as heck, but it's
Yeah, yeah,
if y'all have ever seen The Boys or anything kind of similar, it's like this giant corporation that basically just runs everything in the planet, and
yeah.
you're like kind of like lulled into a false sense of security because this company does run most of the stuff that happens in the planet, like your medicine and your hospital gear and your TV and your phone and all this. It's
Right.
ridiculous, and then but you're like, oh well, they're so good at all this. They know what they're doing, and for the like longest time, people don't really know what zombies are in Resident Evil. I think it's like what the citizens, they don't really know what's going on for the longest time because it starts off in the underground facility and then it spreads to the Raccoon City. But outside of Raccoon City, nobody knows what's going on. They just think some people got a little crazy, and it's scary the fact like to be in a world where nobody knows what's going on and everybody's just kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Somebody's gonna take care of it. It's not fine. You're not
Yeah.
gonna be okay.
This is fine. Fires everywhere.
Yeah, that meme, yeah. But yeah, man, I totally get you. That would be just a terrible place to be.
And just another thing too is that I'm not I don't like it's weird because I like fighting in terms of like entertainment,
Right,
but I'm not really a fighter. I'd prefer to talk things out,
right. And
but you
talk it
can't
out.
really do that with a zombie.
Yeah,
Uh, and another thing too is I'm not Leon Kennedy, man. Leon Kennedy is able to survive because he's trained by the military and he's trained to hurt people in various different ways.
right. And he just starts off as like a rookie cop in the first one or the second
Yeah,
one.
but still, he had to go to academy.
Right. So he's trained a
So
little bit, yeah.
yeah, so I'm a guy with no training,
Right.
and then out of nowhere, zombie apocalypse just happens.
And
Massive influx of virus is spread out,
and that's the
and
aspect of it I was talking about, being just a citizen
yeah,
and thinking, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," and then it's not fine. You're not going to be in a good position there.
they say you're fine, but you're not
You're
fine.
not fine, yeah.
And I wouldn't have any of the weapons really to
Yeah.
protect me. The only way I
Yeah.
think I could like counter them is by like natural warfare. I'm not sure what it's called, but when you use like nature, is that guerrilla warfare? I don't know.
Gorilla, yeah, where you use like
Like
the surrounding area.
so like fire and fire would be what I could use if I can make one, but then it's gonna take
So
over anything
the
it touches.
zombies in Resident Evil are so resilient though. They take like
Yeah.
multiple headshots. They
Right.
take
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so resilient though, and that's the real problem for the citizen side of things is that you're not gonna be able to do much. You can maybe take out one or two, but
Hmm.
Resident Evil zombies are kind of like a different breed on purpose,
Yeah.
and they're just gonna tank everything really. Um, unless you're just popping off headshots all the time.
Yeah.
It's still
360 no
gonna take
scope.
at least two shots or three to take one down because I played the games and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
there's always a catch and there's always something messing with the KDR there.
Yeah. So yeah, so Resident Evil would not be good. Zombie apocalypse, that's not really a pro for me.
Right.
But what about you? What world that would suck to live in video games?
And I do have an irrational fear of zombies, so I could probably just keep going like zombies. Um, I mean, there's so many.
Mhm.
Doom, Dying Light, Last of Us. There's like so many zombie games because zombies just it's a scary thing, and
Mhm.
uh, for me especially because I don't mind the gore in the games and the stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
the thought of if this ever happens, we're not gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, because at my house, all I have is like, I don't have any firearms. I just got some bladed weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but so like if any zombies ever came at me, I would have to get in swinging distance, and I don't really like
Yeah.
the idea of that.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Mm,
Well, let's just say, just to make it a little different, just to make it a little different, since Resi is about zombies, what's something else that would be not so good?
Zombie related, I'd have to go The Last of Us probably.
Hmm.
I did play the first one. I didn't play the second one because I know how that goes, and I was kind of disappointed with how they handled some things in that one.
Yeah.
Um, so I decided that just wasn't for me, and I didn't play it. But I did watch the series, and I did play the first game.
Hmm.
It's absolutely terrible. Either way, either interpretation you go, because in the show they make it was the fungus got into like flour and food and stuff,
Oh,
and it starts off with like they were gonna eat breakfast, but they skip breakfast, and then at night, everything starts going down. But
yeah.
they had the option to have some biscuits, which of course you have to have like flour for biscuits that the neighbors had offered them, and but they had turned it down because they were like on their way to go somewhere. And I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like those poor people that didn't know, you know.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and it's so disturbing because it's fungus and it like grows in you and it like
Yeah.
changes you from the inside out. And I
So
know
it's,
they
yeah.
got the different stages like runner and stalker and clicker and bloater and stuff like that.
Yeah. Parasitic mushrooms.
So that like first stage of course is like when you just turn, so you're like really
Yeah.
fast and nimble and everything. And then the second stage is kind of like the I guess it's kind of like the walker, but they can still run if they hear you, but they're not always running like the first stage. And then like the third stage is the clicker, and that's where it's evolved so much that your skull's cracked open and you don't have any eyesight anymore because the fungus is growing out of your eye holes and everything.
Mm.
And so they just base off of hearing. So
Yeah.
if as long as you're quiet, you're fine. But you always hear like the noise, and it's like it's so disturbing. And I don't know how disturbing that's gonna be because I
Yeah.
just did that into the microphone. Uh, but I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And if
Yeah.
I'm being honest, I'd have to control alt delete myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way, man. Because yeah, you could take out some runners maybe, but once
Mhm.
the stages get too evolved, they start building up resistance to bullets and stuff. And like the
Yeah.
bloater is like pretty much just armored at that point, and they shoot spores that can infect
Yeah.
you. And uh if you're exploring, then there's like spores that are just kind of flooding certain areas, so you have to wear a gas mask. And I am going kind of back and forth between the show and the game
Yeah.
because they share a lot in common. But one thing the
Yeah.
show did different is that they had like an alarm kind of thing going on where if you step on a piece of fungus somewhere, it'll alert all the infected to where you are. So it's kind of like a tripwire
Oh,
for the fungus. So it would be like, oh, if you step on a piece of fungus here, a mile away, it'll send a horde after you, and you gotta
yeah.
go. So
So
there's
just either
like
way,
they make
yeah.
a point of showing that they have to check to make sure the fungus is dead before they go into a building, so they don't trip
Right.
anything.
Lose.
It's a really big lose lose. The only way you could probably win is because always there's going to be like a settlement or something.
Right.
um the only thing I could think of about is if you were with Fedra. Now that's like the organization that kind of takes over and is like what the remnants of the government are. They like kind of run
Yeah.
these quarantine zones. um they run a pretty tight ship. In the show, they kind of make them, like unlikable, of course. And they're just like, oh, we don't have any freedom to do whatever. And it's like, well, of course not. This is a very apocalyptic situation. You're not going to have freedom anyway. And they're like, oh, they're abusing their power and everything. You don't really have any other choice. I'd
Yeah.
rather live under possibly a dictatorship than
Yeah.
out on my butt in the middle of all of this. So, I mean, if I gotta work to keep a home in a quarantine zone, I'll do it. But I'm not gonna go out in the middle of all that and fend for myself because I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, go. Where do you want to go from here? Did you have one in mind that you just didn't want to go into, or
So I
another one?
think if we could just switch back and forth. So we did positive, negative. Let's go back to positive.
All right.
So a another good video game world that would be cool to live in for me would be Undertale.
Okay. And I haven't played Undertale, so you'll have to tell me some of that.
Oh, okay, that's neat. Okay. Well, I totally think you should. Maybe you should play it on the channel. But Undertale is essentially about a human that falls underground. And a long time ago, during medieval times, monsters and humans fought each other for domain of the earth.
Yeah.
Monsters lost. So the human sorcerers, using their magic, sealed them underground. Well, many years later, this little human kid falls down to that underground.
Right.
And so the game, you play as a little kid, and you can either choose to befriend the monsters or kill all the monsters. So there is a pacifist route, there's a genocide route, there's even a neutral route. But all the monsters have their own unique personality and character, and not all of them are evil.
Right.
Some monsters still have a grudge against humans for what they did, but there's a lot of nice monsters too.
Right.
But ultimately, it's your choice to be like, hey, am I going to destroy everybody, or am I going to befriend everybody, or will I be impartial to the whole situation?
Yeah.
Uh, and you can get, depending on what you do, there's like different outcomes in the game.
Right.
So this, I think, would be really good for me because I think I could make a pretty convincing case to the
Yeah.
monsters. One thing is, I'm an adult, I'm not a child. So I think I could, have a intellectual conversation
Right.
with the monsters and we can try to talk things out. Now they may still try to hurt me because even in Undertale, when you're trying to pacify them, they still try to attack you because it's an RPG game,
Right.
right? It's an RPG game, and you have to make the most, you have to convince them for them to stop fighting.
Right.
But I think I could do that sooner just due to the personality I have. And the underground is full of so many colorful characters. I could totally make a lot of friends there. Toriel, the queen, she's a mother figure. She would be my pseudo mom away from home.
Yeah.
Uh, Sans and Papyrus are two skeleton brothers who have a great dynamic. Papyrus, Sans is a troll, uh, mentally. He's a skeleton physically, but he's lazy. He makes puns all the time,
I know he's like
uh,
the face of the game. A lot of people talk about and everything.
and he's just kind of like a fun goofball. While Papyrus, he's essentially a big kid, right? He wants to be beloved by the monsters of the underground, but he's very childish about it. So, like for example, puzzle. Normally, you think a puzzle from a monster would be a little bit challenging. Well, a puzzle from Papyrus is like a word search.
Right.
But yeah, and there's so many monsters down there, and I think I could befriend a lot of them, and I even think I could even convince the king. So Asgore's the king, and he's actually, I think, a fairly underrated character because Asgore, uh, he he's actually the leading monarchy. So Toriel's the queen, but she stepped down after they lost their child. during human conflict.
Uh-huh.
But Asgore, he wanted revenge. And Toriel was like, nah. Because the thing is, in order to break through the barrier, the magical barrier that has them stuck underground, they need human souls in order to break through that barrier. And so Asgore's like, hey, if any humans fall down there, I'm going to take their soul in order to free our people from the entrapment we have ourselves in.
Fetch me their souls.
And Toriel's like, no, I love children. Why would you do that? But Asgore, he never really, his actions were on a whim.
Right.
He was angry about the loss of his son, the humans,
Mm-hmm.
but he never really hated humans. He was really angry about what happened,
Right.
and
As you
and
would
you can
be.
yeah, and you can tell by the point you see him in this game, he regrets a lot of the stuff he's done, and it's kind of like a Darth Vader situation, to
Right.
where he did bad things for a good cause, but Asgore is nowhere as far gone as Anakin Skywalker was. There's still a lot of personality,
I like how
and
everything can be pulled back to Star Wars.
in my eyes, it can. Everything's a Star Wars reference to me.
Everything.
So yeah, it's a really fun game. I think you would really like it. The humor's pretty good, and that would be a pretty interesting series to
See me
see on
go
there.
through.
We could both do it, yeah. Because I've only ever did pacifist. I've never did the genocide.
Oh boy, starts laughing like Homelander.
Yeah,
The
it's
violin meme where he's just laughing.
a
Um,
good. It's a really good game, but it also hits the feels.
of course.
So yeah. But-
Another one for me. I don't even know. I was thinking I was gonna say Need for Speed, but I'm currently playing Need for Speed Heat, and it's actually pretty aggravating. It's not that it's difficult in racing aspect, but it's the police in that game. It's worse than GTA.
Oh,
Um, so I don't know. I have a good selection of games, and I'm just not entirely sure because, like I said, I played so many, and because like all I play is like shooters, fighting games. I'm more on the aggressive side of video games.
yeah.
Um,
But even the aggressive ones could be good. You know,
like
like
I said with Skyrim, it's
yeah,
aggressive, but you can still find something to do in there. I would
like
say,
yeah.
ooh man,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them that I'm just like maybe, but then no. Um, what? I'll go with, since I'm playing through it right now. I think I will go with the Arkham universe.
Okay.
Mainly because I know Batman's out there. I know he's gonna like
Yeah.
do his best to keep me safe. Of course,
Yeah.
there's no guarantees
Yeah.
with all of the
You know,
psychos that run around in there.
yeah.
Um, and like right now I'm on Arkham Asylum, so like everything's kind of contained to just the island of the asylum. So I would be pretty chill over in Gotham, just in my possibly $4 a month apartment. The rent in Gotham has to be pretty low because who wants to live there on purpose?
Oh
Um,
yeah. You get a discount.
you get a discount, possible murder, possible robbery discount. Um,
Make sure you're well. Make sure your doors and windows are boarded.
make sure you got a strap in your Rari. We were
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
joking about
Yeah.
that
Get
before,
ready to have
but
ammunition.
and when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, all of the villains in Gotham are pretty much just people. They're just human, and I don't understand why people just don't shoot them in
Yeah.
self
Yeah.
defense.
Right.
Because if you look at a comic or if you look at the games, the citizens are always just kind of like, "Oh no, Batman, save me!" I'm just like, man, if you got a gun, just pull it out and shoot Joker in the forehead or something.
Yeah. That would be a good place to be in terms of the DC universe, right? Because you're not entirely hopeless. What happens, in a timeline where Superman turns evil, you're not gonna pull out a gun and hurt Superman. There's
Right.
so many like strong figures in the DC universe. that Gotham is a good place to be because you actually have a fair chance to actually
Right.
succeed.
And, you know, I mean, Penguin, what's he? You know, he's just a gun dealer.
You can buy the gun from him and then
And then
use it
shoot
on him.
him, yeah. Now it sounds
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
the villain. I'm turning into Red Hood over here,
yeah,
but I mean, Two Face, he's just a DA with a mental disorder. I mean, he's dangerous, but only if he decides to take you, and he doesn't really take anybody unless they're like corrupt politicians or anything. So as long as you're just doing your own thing, you're fine.
right,
Joker is really the only concern because he's the one that really just kind of goes out of his way to go for anybody.
right.
If you're the least bit interesting to him, he's gonna ruin your life.
Yes,
That's the only real concern. But like Two Face and Penguin, Riddler is not gonna bother you unless like you're higher up. I guess he doesn't really bother anybody. Um,
yeah,
except for in the Arkham games, he does kidnap like a medic team in the Arkham City, and then I think that's about it. He just kidnaps a medic team somehow. Um,
yeah,
but outside of that, you're fine because Batman saves you.
right.
But and Mister Freeze, what's he doing? He's just looking to cure his wife. If anything, I'm helping Mister Freeze. Give
Yeah,
me an
yeah.
ice gun, and I'm helping you cure your wife, my guy. That's
The honorable villain to serve.
yeah, like nobody wants to help Mister Freeze. I know in the cartoon they really lean into he's cold hearted and everything.
Yeah.
But in the Arkham series, they don't do that. He actually has his emotion and he just wants to save his wife. Dude, if
And
I
it,
run into Mr. Freeze during a robbery, I'm gonna be like, hey man, give me the bag, I'll help you load it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Like I
Like I mean,
understand.
yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
And then you get Harley Quinn and Catwoman, of course. Those are just wow.
Bonus.
Now Catwoman's gonna scratch your face off, and then Harley
But
Quinn
do
will
you like
bash your
that
head
though?
in. But Poison Ivy, that's another concern. It's really the women, isn't it? It's just the women that are the
Yeah,
concerns in this.
women in Gotham are just there's something about them.
They're wild. I mean, Harley Quinn's gonna bash your head in.
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman will scratch you up. Poison Ivy's either gonna turn you into a plant person or like mind control you or just straight up kill you with a kiss or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's just really the women, and then now you get like was it the Punchline or whatever, which is one of the newer characters that's like Joker's newest. I know this is like old news, but it was like Joker's newest girlfriend or whatever. But anyway, yeah,
Mm.
that's the one I would probably go for if I had to. And I
You know,
think
oh,
wait, how far along are we?
we got a couple minutes. We still have a little bit left.
All right, do you want to just go back to a world you don't want to live in and end it on that?
Once we go back to cons and we talk about it for a little bit, we should
Okay.
be on.
So going back to you, what's your second world that you would not want to leave in or live in, my
Okay,
bad.
so one thing before we begin though, I love how when you were talking about Harley, you
Yeah.
suddenly got like a New Yorker accent.
Oh, did I really?
Yeah, when you say I'm gonna bash your head in.
Hey,
When you
listen to me. I'm walking here.
yeah, you
Uh,
went into bash. Your
I'm gonna
accent
bash your
is
head
fun.
in if you don't come out if you don't leave me alone, yeah? Yeah. Now I'm turning British. Oh my god, stop me.
So for me, a world that I wouldn't want to live in, part two.
Yeah.
You know what? I love Five Nights at Freddy's,
Oh
but it
no.
it is not a good world to live in, and something that you I think I'm like a sad tragedy. I'm gonna be walking in with a white flag because I would feel tempted to help the children.
Oh boy.
Like like I'm a good person. Some may say too good,
Right.
but in the FNAF universe, like the supernatural stuff
Right.
can happen anywhere.
And
It
yeah,
it,
and
it,
why don't they ever
it
call like an exorcist or something? They don't ever think to call somebody to get the spirits out of Five Nights at Freddy's. But
like that's a good idea, but well, one, they probably don't want to lean into religion too much,
yeah.
but uh, two, though, with the spiritual stuff is explained. It's explained in more of like a science sense.
Yeah.
It's not really like a religious sense. So
Right. I still got to see
like
the movie.
yeah, I have
You had
got it.
good.
I liked it, but I'm a FNAF fan.
Well, who better to judge it than a FNAF fan, right?
Yeah, I feel like it could have been, to not get too distracted.
Right.
I feel like it could have been a little bit better in some areas, but there was a lot of care and detail put into it, and I still think it's good
What it
for
is.
what they were going for.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry
So
to pull you off of that. I just thought about
yeah,
that. But yeah, go back
y- yeah.
to the
So,
about the spiritual and the scientific.
so in FNAF, Scott Cawthon, the creator,
What a name, Scott Coffin.
sounds a lot like coffin,
Yeah, that's what I'm
but it
saying, man. You're talking about
yeah.
the FNAF, like wow, what a name.
So Scott Cawthon, the whole thing about FNAF is it's a fun mystery game. There's always something to theorize about, and that's the strength of the series.
Right.
But along with creepy animatronic stuff. But in the books, we find out that negative emotions.
Right.
So it's like emotions have power.
Right.
So negative emotions can make things haunted,
Right.
bring things to life.
Don't need
So
that.
then when you look at, you know, Freddy's, the restaurant where, some kids went missing and bad stuff went down there. That whole place is like, reeked with agony. It's reeked with bad emotions,
Right.
along with the spirits that still haunt the animatronics. But I would really want to help them because if I was in that world
Yeah.
and I knew that was a saying, I don't think I could rest. I wouldn't be able to rest easy knowing that some kids who were taken away from their family
Right.
in the 80s by a madman
And
are still haunting the place they last were.
right. And I hate to say it, but on my part of that, I feel like I'm probably the opposite where I think
Yeah,
I would like to help, but I'd probably be too scared they're gonna try to stuff me into something.
yeah,
Um, and like you said, if I knew about that, I'd probably just avoid it, because
yeah,
uh, there's always the possibility of it going terribly wrong if you don't know what you're doing. Which in the
yeah,
game you really don't. There's just a dude on the phone saying, "Hey, if you're looking at the camera and one of them's not there, they're probably coming to kill you." Well, like, wait, what?
yeah,
Like there's always the guy on the phone telling you. So you wouldn't know unless you took that job, and I just couldn't. I'm sorry.
yeah. Like I know that's totally fair because like that's why I say like I care too much,
Yeah.
but the kind of person I am would have to try and help,
Right.
some way somehow. So actually would try and help free the spirits. And that's going to ultimately end up backfiring on me because, these are haunted animatronics and they are blinded, right?
Right.
Because to think from their point of view, right? All they know is that a person wearing a costume one day took their lives.
Right.
They don't really know what they look like, but they assume, hey, a adult did this to us. An adult hurt
So we're just
us.
gonna go after all adults. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, they never knew. It was a man in a costume. So they never knew what that adult looked like. They didn't really know his name. They
Yeah.
weren't even sure if it was a female. But
Right.
from their point of view, they're kids who got hurt by an adult. And they're like, hey, we're stuck here. We want to go home
Might
or
as
we
well.
want to go to heaven.
Yeah.
We have to find some way to leave this place. And so they assume that, hey, if we can attack the guy, right? If we can get the guy who got us,
Right.
then our spirits can move on to heaven. Right? That's their point of view. But they're so blinded and misunderstood about things and just flat out confused that they attack the adult thinking that this is the guy who did it. this is the person who hurt me. So there's a little bit of psychology mixed in there
Right.
too with like the spiritual stuff. But yeah, it wouldn't be a good world to live in, but I would try to be as prepared as I can. And that's one thing about me being a fan, right? I
Yeah.
know how they act. I know the locations.
Right.
I know certain things I can exploit to help give myself a
And as
better
long as
chance.
you're not in the building, you're pretty much fine though.
Yeah, if I can like find a way to like who says I had to do the night shift?
Yeah.
I could try to do
Who says you have
I
to be working for that building at all? You could just be in that universe, and you could just be like, oh, on the news, some night watchman died on his shift or something, and you'd be like, oh, that's terrible news. Anyway, what's on PBS or something? I know it
yeah,
sounds a little dark, but you really don't have to work for the. You can just live in universe and just see that on the news.
yeah, and I kind of feel like even if I didn't work there, which like you said, and like we said, I don't have to
Yeah.
feel like even if I was there during the day, because that's actually the best time, right?
Right.
Because they don't attack people during the day,
Right.
because in the day they're in like performance mode
Right.
and they're not allowed to,
Do
you
anything.
know, do anything because one, they want to make sure that's the only time they can really play,
Right.
which is kind of sad too. The tragedy of it
Right.
is when they entertain kids. That is the only time they can be with other kids
Right.
because once it closes, it's just them with the adult. But if I could do like some sort of like try to jog a memory or
Right.
something. Kind of
Gotcha.
like a paranormal investigation except during the day and not as blatant.
Scary.
Yeah,
Spooky.
cuz sometimes they forget their kids, right? Like, as time goes on they forget and they're like, "Oh, I'm just Freddy now." And
Maybe
after
we'll
like
have to do a whole video on just Five Nights at Freddy's sometime down the line,
yeah.
because I still
But
have to beat the games.
but anyway, yeah, that's my point of view on that. So I would risk myself, put myself in potential danger, hopefully not death,
Right.
to try and help some of the spirits. But what about you? Another game that you wouldn't
Oh
really want to
boy,
be like?
I have one in mind, and it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And not because it's zombies. It's not because there's some sort of otherworldly threat. It's because it's actually a human threat.
Oh.
Is it the Wolfenstein series? Um,
Oh,
I don't know
that
if you know what that is.
doesn't that take place during World War II?
Takes place during and after. So for those of you that don't know, Wolfenstein is about a hero character named BJ Blazkowicz, an
Mm,
American soldier. And I've only played the machine. I think they're called Machine Head, the developers,
yeah.
or Machine Games, something like that. They're the ones doing the new Indiana Jones game, um,
Oh,
which is
I
I
didn't even
think
know that was a thing.
yeah, it's like an Xbox exclusive,
Mm.
which sucks by the way. But yeah, so played was it the Old Blood, New Order, and the New Colossus, which are like the three of their games. And I played what was the new one? There's like a fourth one I played.
Mm.
So Wolfenstein is the name of like this castle, uh, and it's during World War II.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, really advanced in this universe,
Mm.
and it's explained because about that they're advanced because the Jews in this universe are like actually like really scientists,
Oh.
and that they have like ancient scientific knowledge and stuff, and that they like didn't want their technology getting in the world, so they just stopped making stuff and locked it away, found out about it and took it and got really advanced. So they've got like jets and stealth bombers and stuff, like stuff you would see today, but like back then. They've got power armor and cybernetics and like all this wild stuff, and America's still fighting with what you would think we're fighting with in the real world today or back then.
Mm.
And it's like a very uneven fight. And even when the
Yeah.
game picks up, it's like 1946, so it's like a year after the war has supposed to be ended.
Yeah.
and you do your intro missions and stuff. But yeah, definitely don't want to live in Wolfenstein. Absolutely terrible universe. Maybe after they liberate it and everything, but definitely not beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think that's all for me.
Okay, yeah, and we hit the time.
All right,
So we hit the time limit. All
everybody.
right.
So I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have to wrap it up here. I hope y'all have enjoyed the video. Please give it a big old thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing for more content just like this, and follow the Instagram where I try to post memes daily, or at least as much as possible. It's the same name, Fueled by Geek. This has been Matt and Xander. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.